Now today I'm going to start with a quote, just for a change. I spotted this one the other day. I was reading through a few other things, and it's not the usual, my sort of usual reading matter, but believe me, I'm not trying to go all highbrow on you. But it's a quote from Dostoevsky, and I just thought that does really fit with the world of the audiophile and the way people will believe things or not believe things, the way that people are adamant that things can't make a difference or they can't, you know, there's like a blanket sort of, no, that's rubbish, that's snake oil, that whatever else. So anyway, the quote, and I'm going to have to read it from over there, so apologies for me looking past you to read it, because I've tried to learn this and it's not happening. So let's give it a go. The quote is, man has such a predilection for systems and abstract deductions that he is ready to distort the truth intentionally. He is ready to deny the evidence of his senses in order to justify his logic. And I really do think that's true. I think it's the amount of people I talk to, and they've made a decision based on logic that X, Y, Z can't make a difference. That's rubbish. That's snake oil. That's whatever. And then quite often they will actually hear a difference, but they'll decide that, oh no, I'm just conning myself here. This can't be doing this because of that doesn't make sense, or that doesn't make sense. Welcome to Cheshire Audio. Today I'm going to be talking about power cables, and now you'll understand why I didn't use that quote, because I'm ready for the barrage of abuse I'm going to get in the comments. Probably like, I didn't read the comments actually, but like I imagined with the fuses, because this is a similar thing. It doesn't make any sense. It's not logical, but they work. Give me a minute. I'm just going to get some stuff together and we'll have a chat about cables. Right, I'm back with a fresh cup of tea and new haircut. Yeah, power cables. I wanted to split this into three sections really. I mean, firstly, it's sort of expectations given by manufacturers, because manufacturers are very, very keen to sell you these things. And you might look at the prices and thinking, well, of course they're keen to sell me these things, because some of them are crazy expensive. And I deal with mainly Nordos, to be honest. I think that's the main brand. But I've also done a few other things over the years: Experience Filtration, Black Rhodium, Merlin. I'm trying to think now who else have done decent cables. Even people like Goldring have done power cables. Vanden Hole with the power, what's it called, main source, mains, whatever. There's a mainstream main source, I think it's called. There's been loads of them, really. There's loads of them, and manufacturers will tell you that it's all about sort of RF noise and electromagnetic interference, and it's about sort of having really good connections, sort of transmission of current and all this sort of thing. And they seem to be split into different categories. Cables. There's chunky cables with decent plugs on. There's such an easy thing for a company to do. They can just slap some decent plugs on a chunky looking cable and charge £200 for it. To be fair, a lot of those things don't generally give you an awful lot of improvement. There's loads of them. I'm not going to mention names now, but there's been a few over the years that you can tell there's not really any science behind it particularly. They've just sort of, well, just make everything on it better, and it's got to be worth it. But I think to a degree having better plugs, because I've done a bit of experimentation with things like Furatech, who do mains wall sockets and mains plugs. Changing those makes a noticeable difference, and different materials and things like that. So you can sort of see that even at that level there's something going on. When you get really into it, some of the cables are actually quite complex. Particularly companies like Nordos, companies that sort of design in a specific way for the purpose. It isn't just something off the peg. So yeah, manufacturers, this is what they're going to be telling you. This is what all these things do. Now let's think about let's go to the logic of this. Let's get back to Dostoevsky. Let's go logic. Let's go, I don't believe this because logically it's rubbish. There's a lot of arguments against this. There's a lot of arguments against it. The main one being, okay, RFI and EMI interference. Okay, I can see that. That's really important. But if you imagine connecting, this is about a £300-ish Nordos cable, which is actually longer than I thought it was, a 2 metre Nordos cable. into your system, and there will be minimal amounts of RFI and EMI sort of radiation going into that and interference, should I say. What about all the other cable involved? What about all the cable back to the power station, the cable into your house, the cable around, on the spur of you? What's happening there? Because surely that's picking it up. So how can this little 2 metre or a 1 metre cable stop all that? Because it's not filtering it. It's, as far as I might be wrong on this, but as far as I see it, it's not filtering. It's stopping these forces or whatever at that point. So that doesn't make sense, because it must be talking about 1,000% of the distance with your £300 cable plus on it. It can't make a difference. That's rubbish. It can't make a difference. So from that point of view, so it's like, well, yeah, logically it doesn't. It's nonsense. It shouldn't make any difference whatsoever. It's just as long as it's got good connections. That's all you need, and that's what people will argue. Just X, Y, Z gauge of copper or whatever it is, with good plugs on, with good terminals, and that's all you need. And that's, snake oil and that sort of thing. Now let's talk about the actual using your senses. Now the weird thing about all this is, because there are so many arguments. Like I say, there are so many arguments why this shouldn't work. But it does, and I don't get it. I wouldn't say I'm a cynical person necessarily, but I do tend to try and think things through a little bit and think, what's going on with this? Particularly Nordost, which I've got a few of down here. What's that one? I think that's a Frey. Is that Frey? Yeah, Frey 2 power cable, a couple of £1,000. Unless you want a longer length, I think that might be even more than that, because I think it's a longer length. It's about 2.5, I think. But like Nordost, they go from about £200 power cable up to 25,000, I think now, for an Odin Gold. I think that is. So that's a 1 metre cable. If you want more than that, I think if you need 2 metres, you're up to sort of £50,000-60,000. It's crazy. I'm not going to try and justify silly prices for these things, but I think I have heard things like Odin. Not the Gold, not the 2, but I've heard the original Odin. It was scarily good, and I took it round to a customer. I was very lucky to be lent a length of it. Took it round to a customer, almost not as a joke so much as because he was already using Valhalla, which is the next model down, and not expecting anything from it, to be honest. Really, I knew Valhalla was good because the Valhalla, funnily enough, in the same system, had been my first experience of high-end power cables, and I couldn't believe how much it improved things. And I just took this Odin round, and it was basically the reaction of the customer was, I can't live without this now. Now you've done this to me now, I can't live without it because it is so much better. Unfortunately, I ended up buying a second-hand set off eBay, which is a bit of a blow. And he's bought a couple more since, to be fair. He's managed to source a few of them, but he couldn't. He said, well, now I've heard that, I can't live without it. So that's not cables making no difference. What I find with power cables, if you go far enough up the range, sort of 200 or 300 quid plus of a cable that is properly designed, like a Nordost or like the Merlins used to be and things like that, you get noticeable improvement. It's not just an alteration of anything. It's almost like a cleaning of the soundstage, almost as like a cleaning. I've used this horrible analogy before, like cleaning a window. It's like sort of frees everything up, frees up the musicality. It makes the band sound a lot more like they're into what they're doing. It's very difficult to quantify it, but it can be quite a big difference. And like a lot of companies, like I think particularly Nordost say, and I've heard, I think Graham Nolte at Sonic Link, who are now Black Rhodium, the power cable is the most important cable in the system. And that makes a lot of sense because it is kind of the lifeblood. I think I'm quoting Nordost now. The mains power is the lifeblood of your system, so you don't want it to be restricted. I'm still thinking about all the sort of logical reasons why that's a stupid statement, but It does work. It's not rubbish. It's not snake oil. It does work. What you need to do is borrow a cable with an open mind, plug it into your system, and if it's better, it is better. Don't let logic get in the way of what your ears are telling you. Hence the pretentious quote at the beginning of this. Now, I'm starting to realise there's an awful lot of things I was going to say and I haven't said. But anyway, I think I've covered most things. Again, it's weird. I'm sorry, it's a good while since I've done a video, and the shop has been really busy. It's been sort of suddenly got much busier than I can cope with, so I'm not being able to spend an awful lot of time thinking about videos and doing stuff. Just wanted to show you what have I got down here. I've just got a big pile of cables. Heimdall, a couple of £1,000. No, it's not. Sorry, I'll just start again. Frey, that's a couple of £1,000. I think that's Heimdall. Nordust Heimdall, which would be, is that about 600? I think it is. Yeah. Yeah. My probably favourite all-rounder actually, Nordust Blue Heaven, which is about, I think that's about 270 at the moment for a 1 metre. That's a bit longer. That's quite a good starter cable, to be fair. I mean, that seems to work with most things. What I have found, not all equipment is. This is something else which is a bit weird, you know, because it should be consistent. It isn't. I found certain equipment isn't that receptive to putting decent cables on. I mean, historically, Name was always like that. And apart from Nordust, I've tried all sorts of sort of high-end things on Name stuff, and it can quite often make it sound worse. Now that doesn't make sense, because better connections, better cable, better. It's got to be better, but it can sound worse. So what's going on there? So this hobby is really strange, and it does annoy me when people make a blanket comment about things like this, that it's rubbish, it can't make a difference, because you just need to try it and see, because there are, like I say, there's loads of things. I'm realising I'm looking like I'm purely Nordust here. That's experience filtration. That is getting on a bit now. These were related to, it was one of the ex-directors of Sonic Link, which is now Black Rhodium, and he went off on his own and did these, and these were really good, and he did a little filter unit that was very good as well. Filtration is another thing, actually, which I'll probably do a video on. I haven't actually got any filter units here at the moment, but I had a chap in the shop the other day who had some little mains blocks, and he was saying, well, they've got filtering in to protect my equipment. So you don't really want to do that. Don't do filtration of the mains unless you're spending a lot of money on it, really, because cheap filtration does more harm than good, to be honest. And it's not really about saving your equipment, it's about getting rid of noise and all that sort of thing. Weirdly, if you buy a big mains filter, the power cables still make a difference. Now, you would have thought that the power filter will be curing all your problems as far as that's concerned, but the power cables still make a difference. I've done quite a lot of experimentation with that, and it was completely unexpected. The guy with the Odin, I've had another chap who's got a lot of Name stuff we've experimented with power cable, with filter and power cable, and it's sort of a cumulative effect. Who knows? My problem is I don't know enough about it to understand the physics. And talking to people who do understand it, I sort of understand it for the moment they're talking to me, and then afterwards I've lost it, I can't remember. Which isn't helpful for the YouTube videos, but it gives me an excuse not to go on at length and be shouted at. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for watching. I'll try and do as many videos. I'll try and step up the video recording if I can, because I'm actually away for a few days. I'm going to be away this weekend. Next week should be fairly clear, so I'm hoping to do another Dali review. Got some Ophidian speakers I want to do a review of. I've got a very interesting Tweekery thing coming up next, hopefully. I've just been talking to somebody about borrowing something, and that's quite an interesting one. It's the completely mad side of it all. If you think cables are mad, just hold on to your hats, because this is a really mad one. Yeah, leave it there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the likes. Thanks for the emails. Getting close to 6,000 views, 6,000 subscribers. Getting close to 1 million views. I managed to find out where all the sort of cumulative views were on the actual diagnostic thing the other day, and it's nearly 1 million. Oh, that's just Phenomenal, really. Yeah, completely unexpected. After me just doing a couple of little videos to help people set up the Rigas, just to direct customers to help them. It's kind of mushroomed, doesn't it, really? But yeah, and thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in a future video. Thank you very much.